All right. Welcome, everybody. Thanks for joining today's session. This is a very pleasant coincidence for all of us here today. Uniki has partnered with RSVK Enterprises of South Africa, and today we start off our first collaboration work. And I'm also glad that today happens to be the day of Ganesh Puja here in India. And it is believed that anything good you start to pray, you start with praying to Ganesha, uh, the favorite deity of starting things so that things go on smoothly and are successful. I'm also glad to have Prabodh and Aman from uh, from Learn and Empower, if I got that right, correct? And they have a fantastic, uh, way of identifying or making sure technology supports, supports breaking the communication barriers between the deaf community and the hearing. I have Sagar with me, who is a deaf teacher and is he, he's been doing a lot of work in the deaf community recently. Before I start off the formal introductions, I would also like to thank Rakesh and Manoj for making this event happen. And I also would like to thank the interpreters, Andy, Neeta, Dombi, and Atia, who will be translating all our conversations into South African Sign Language and Indian Sign Language, right? So let me first introduce the speakers in this session today. We have Prabodh with us. Prabodh and Amanpreet, the computer whiz folks who graduated as computer science engineers. Prabodh, the startup nomad, hopping from healthcare to edtech to agriculture during agriculture startups during his engineering journey. Meanwhile, Aman, the coding wizard, became a software engineer and even earned his stripes as a fellow at the Inclusion Fellowship. It was a match made in heaven, they say, and when they met at TCS, Digital Impact Square, where they were cooking up plans and researching ways to revolutionize deaf education. Today, the is making waves, partnering with social organizations across Tier 3 cities, even in rural India, and they've got governments of Maharashtra, Gujarat, and Telangana backing them up. These duo founders believe in changing the tech game and creating for Bharat that is both accessible and inclusive. We also have Sagar with us. Sagar is born deaf to hearing parents and was raised within the linguistically and culturally rich deaf community in India. He has successfully completed bachelor's degree in mathematics from the Calcutta University and has a diploma in teaching sign language. Right? So, without much further ado, I will kick off the conversation of today's topic, AI, which is the most favorite buzzword amongst tech and non-tech people equally in the recent past. And my first question is to Amanpreet because he happens to be the guy with a lot of uh, tech background. So, Aman, what is AI? I mean, can you dumb it down to us and say today we hear a lot of things, uh, and almost everything seems to be connected with AI, or everybody wants to be connected with AI in some sort of a way. But can you give us a layman's understanding of what AI means?
Yeah, sure. First of all, thank you for having both of us over here, and it's a pleasure to seeing you and connecting with you again. Uh, so, artificial intelligence, like the word itself says that it is artificial, and the other word is intelligence. So, how we human have intelligence within us that we can think, we can provide solutions to the problems, and we can solve problems using our logical thinking, and we can come up with many new innovative ideas. So the same thing is replicated when a machine does the intelligent things. So there is, let's say, a case that there are n number of data, there is a huge data let's say that considering the example of sign language itself, we have so many sign language, so many words in English, in Hindi, in Gujarati, everywhere, in every language. So if we are the ones who are learning the language and are the mediator in the translation, we have to go towards a process. We have to learn first the sign language, we have to learn the English language itself, and then we can communicate. So using AI, what it does, it is just like a small child. You feed him a huge set of data, you feed him a huge set of text, video, everything, audio that is available in this world, and it gets trained based on some mathematical algorithms that are there. So it gets trained and it can then behave similar to a human. It learns the things and it can behave the way we want. So this is how I can drill it down to a very simple language, that it is an intelligence that is replicated via machine. And nowadays it is a buzzword because of chat GPT, as we all know, the generative AI. So like the artificial intelligence is now able to generate content itself, be it textual, be it videos, anything. So this is a kind of, we can say, a watershed moment in this AI revolution and in this technological world. So yeah, so this is all AI is, and like the future holds immense potential in this.
Fantastic. Thank you, Aman. I have a few follow-up questions, but before I get there, I'll try and look at it from a deaf person's perspective. Now, Sagar,
Yeah.
my question to you is, communication seems to be the biggest challenge and issue for a deaf person, right? And uh, there has been enough and more conversations around why solving the biggest problem of communication can help overcome a deaf person's lifestyle changes or the impact it has on a deaf person. Now, my question to you is, do you believe, with all the conversations around AI, can technology solve the communication problem?
Well, that's a really great question. So, looking at AI, previously the technology was different, and now, say for example, Oriya language or Hindi, you'll have to translate if that was the case and scenario. So the machine can hear the language and then translate, right? But that's a spoken or a hearing language. But then when you look at sign language, it's got a lot of expressions, movement, and signs, right? So that's very difficult to translate, and it's not yet there. We have seen that a lot of institutes, even like NIHH in Kolkata, a lot of IT folks have gone there to NIHH in Kolkata, have done kind of research to understand how a sign language can be translated properly, because it's got facial expressions. But can AI, can they really understand the facial expressions and translate it exactly?
Okay, that's a good conversation starter. Now, Prabodh, this is where I want to ask you the question, and I believe you at Learn and Empower, both Aman and you, have tried to solve this dilemma, right? On one side, Sagar feels sign language is much more dynamic, and there's a lot more than just content creation. Would you like to share what you have created and also show probably a demo of how this thing works?
Definitely. Yeah. So thank you so much for that.
I will just make you the co-host.
Yeah.
I will just
So,
make you the co-host. Just.
sure. So let me introduce to what Sign Assistive is. Sign Assistive is India's one of the most accessible platform that enables the deaf to learn Indian Sign Language, practice, but it is also equipped with the superpower to translate any regional content into Indian Sign Language. So we leverage artificial intelligence at the back, and eventually we are fortunate that we will be launching it on 22nd of the September itself. So I would definitely love to share the video. Let me just share the screen. Is the screen visible?
Yes.
So you get an option to translate, and you get an option to learn, you know. So if you're a newbie or want to learn Indian Sign Language or use it as a learning aid, you need to head to the learning section, where the things are organized based upon the categories and the words as well. And it's a quiz based format that we follow, you know, in order to ensure that there is learning as well as there is understandability. But let's go with the translation of how a text is being translated into Indian Sign Language. So this actually translates content from every single regional language in India into Indian Sign Language in real time. And not only it does it in Indian languages, it also does for global languages as well. We are the early pioneer in delivering expression-based Indian Sign Language along with a real-time learning facility as well. And we are launching it on 22nd of September itself. Definitely would love to share that with you, get few feedbacks, and then improve the AI thing that we call it. Chaitanya, you are on mute, I believe.
Well, I was saying that's wonderful, and this is really exciting to see, right? And I can already see a lot of possibilities around this. But before I share my comments, I will go back to Sagar and ask him, Sagar, you saw that, uh, you know, avatar of sorts signing, "Hello, I am Prabodh." Now, on a scale of 1 to 10, how do you or where do you rate it to actual actually a person signing? Or is it good enough for the deaf person to understand, or is there still a long way to go?
Great. Thank you for that question. So it looks like a formal signing, right? It's missing that natural signing. For example, you know who I am, and I will have a sign name, which is probably missing here. It's just the the finger spelling of the name. Yeah, people could have a sign name. So in my opinion, the rating I will give it as 9 to 10 because of how it has come out, though it is very formal. But yeah, this is quite a simple sentence, and this has come out really well. Could you show us an example of a complex sentence, probably?
Well, Prabodh, you're on mute.
Yeah. So let me just join through my mobile. Aman, if that's possible from your end, could you please share your screen?
Yeah, I have already joined. I'm not sure if I can share my screen.
Let me just check it.
Let me try, yeah.
That's possibility from my end as well.
Only the host can share. I'm getting this option.
Oh, let me join, Chaitanya. I'll try to. Just give me a minute.
While Prabodh is trying going
May
to
I make a
answer
comment about the signing?
Sagar's question. Sorry. While Prabodh is trying to share his screen and get Sagar to or respond to Sagar's question, I would like to draw a parallels on this from the Indian context to the South African context, right? Very recently, South Africa has made a sign language as one of their official languages, which means there is a lot of work in terms of accessibility that needs to go in South Africa as well. Uh, and like India, South Africa is also a bouquet of languages, a bouquet of cultures and diverse people, right? And my question to Rakesh or Brian from South Africa is how do you see this AI becoming, or technology becoming a main in Rakesh? Anyone?
Yeah. Hi, Chaitanya. I think your voice was breaking. But anyway, I think I don't know whether am I audible? Okay. I think two important
Yes,
points.
you are audible, Rakesh.
Thank you, Chaitanya. Brian, I'll take a minute before you can then jump in and add on. One of the fundamental reason South Africa is getting into this kind of, I mean, if I look at the sign language today, constitutionally in this country, this is the 12th language, right? Which I think there are very few countries in the world who have adopted sign language as their national language. So it has a very deep implications, right? From ground up. And if I see artificial intelligence, because first of all, the acknowledgement of us having deaf people in the society was not paramount. I mean, if I go back to South Africa, I remember in COVID days, the whole communique or the whole communication which was given, the entire deaf community was completely forgotten. So nobody knew what to do, when to wash hands, and what to do in case you have symptoms, and so on and so forth, right? So now it's a fundamental right of a citizen to go and ask for the rights within the constitutional provision, which is now the language, which is now the 12th language, what we call it, right? So that's the political and the constitutional component of, and therefore it becomes very, very important for us to have solutions which actually, and we can use AI. I think that will accelerate the kind of penetration we would want to get into the marketplace. We want a ground up approach, and at the same time, we also need top down approach. Now, what I mean by that, ground approach would mean one of the biggest challenges in South Africa today we have is unemployability, right? People are on streets, they have no jobs, right? We have 4 million deaf people in the country. And we really do not know how many of them have an opportunity to go into university and do their bachelor's degree. So that's also a little bit, an area which we need to really look at. On the other side, we have the children who are in school, right, they are learning skills, but the technology is not as prominent as it should be in, say, for example, in grade 12 or in grade 11 for the child, which means a deaf child is basically is having a limitation in terms of when it goes to a marketplace. He does not have 21st century skills and so on and so forth. So in my view, artificial intelligence can play a very, very important role. Now, there are only two things what I can say. One, of course, is every single language is different. I mean, the Indians, it's a very different dialect, different sign language. South Africa has got anywhere 11 languages, and all 11 languages have different connotations and different expression. So I would want to know from the AI specialist here, how can we then integrate? How can we integrate all the expressions, all the dialects, and try and create a product which then actually can be used the way they are doing it in India? I know, I mean, India, there are many, many languages, and I'm not too sure whether the India has actually done sign language or has made sign language as an official language. I really don't know about that. But yes, how can we integrate all the expressions, all the dialects, or make a kind of a standard?
संडे पड़ गया इसका था 29,500 29,500 18 साल का बोलो ये सब आइटम होने हो
Over to you, Chaitanya. I think I know. I mean, there was some confusion. There was some noise in between. So I hope everything is clear now. Thank you.
Right. Thanks for that response, Rakesh. Just to answer your question, yes, sign language is official in India, and there is a RPWD Act which also makes makes it a rule.
Of a concert that they were doing in Moscow during the COVID era. And they could have, so what they did is they had about 120 cameras surrounding one individual, one DJ, which was Black Coffee at that time. So the 120 cameras will record every single bit of him. So it could be his hands, his facial expressions, what he would do, and then they will generate him into an AI figure. And then he will do a set for an hour, and then they will then play it back as an AI generated concert. So he was in Moscow, but he was actually in South Africa. So the possibilities of that happening, it's there. We can actually have facial expressions that actually look as real as possible, and that is basically where the future is. The problem that we might face, and which I think should be more of a political solve, is the access to internet or technology in a third world country. Because as much as we might think of ourselves as first world countries, we are actually third generation, because we are still struggling with unemployment. We're still struggling with just data. We're still struggling with internet connection. For example, right now, we're struggling with just getting our lights on in the two countries that we actually are discussing this issue. So if that can be solved, then technology then becomes easier to be utilized, because that is just programs that you can just either draft, build, and then send and let maybe schools or individuals to actually utilize them. But is the excess of utilizing them that becomes a problem, which is a big problem for all of us at the moment, either with India or South Africa.
So I would love
very
to
true.
share
That's
that
very
share
true.
that app as well. Could I?
Yeah, Prabodh, you can go ahead.
Perfect. Just let me know if the screen is visible so that I can just start it.
Not yet.
Okay, just give me a minute. Why this is consistent issue? Just give me a minute, guys. Yeah, should be now. Is it?
Visible.
Yeah. So you get to learn the feature, you get a dictionary as well in that. And then I guess Saga was asking about having long sentences or complex sentences, right? So I would type, I am coming to India from Africa to anybody could suggest me any sentence. If that's the case, I would write in right away.
Yeah, hi Pramod. I can tell you. I mean, what you can say is, coming to India from Africa, there is a business delegation which is coming on 21st, and we would.
Okay.
So something of that sort. So just write. You, if I can tell you, you can start writing it down. But that's fine.
Yeah, please.
We are
tell me.
So we are inviting
We are inviting
delegates from South Africa.
Delegates
From
Oh.
South Africa
yeah.
to attend
Hmm.
India-Africa Conclave
India
Africa Conclave on 30th of September. Thank you. That should be enough, I guess.
Yeah. So just to give you a glimpse, it's in the very early phases, so it might not work, but I'm free to share that with you as well. Let's see how it works. And those animations which are not available right now, it gets finger spelled by the character. So we are continuously making it available. And that's just because of the India happened with Africa. So it understands as a combined. So it basically converts the input into ISL, that is the Indian Sign Language gloss, which then is available into like a convertible form into Indian Sign Language. So it's into the very nascent phase, but I hope we are sure gonna improve.
Right. So
can I ask Andy to just Chaitanya? Can I ask Andy to just give a quick comment on this, because she would understand it better than any one of us. Thank you.
Sure. Dombi is going to come. I'm going to voice on. Hello.
Yeah. Hello.
It's good, but it's missing the non-manual features, because every sign language has the 5 parameters, which makes up a sign. So facial expression is and role shift, but it's a person signing, but the non-manual features are not there, meaning there is no tone. However, the work is beautiful. It's a good start. To develop from there, it's just to add the non-manual features.
We are looking to improve that. Thank you for the suggestion.
I agree with that. The same thing from South Africans, and with respect to this also, I agree with Roger. It's important to see the use of space, because they go to Roger. You can see.
May I request everybody to mute themselves? Okay, thank you. All right, so Prabodh and Aman, I have a next set of question for both of you, right? Obviously, in languages where the sign language being facial expressions, body language, and everything else. But the way I'm seeing this is how computers were in the 1990s, right? You had those big floppy disks, and in a
Absolutely.
in a short span of time, it became the smaller floppy disks, and then the storage space moved up from 8 bits to, I don't know, some terabytes today, correct?
True.
But I think we are on a path where the gates have been kicked open, and from here on, it is just incremental increase in the amount of transformation that can happen. I'm well aware of, I can't recollect the name of a similar project in New Zealand, but it's probably a few steps ahead in terms of facial expressions, and the naturality of how the avatar looks. But my question to you, Aman and Prabodh, is everybody, I've seen more such similar attempts, and everybody is trying to create uh, a translator from text to sign or voice to sign in their own specific region or country, right? Like, I assume you're doing it only for Indian Sign Language. But what does it take to create a global product which can then pick up sign language based on what what any user needs? That's my first question. My second question is, how do we make this so simple and natural to use that, let's say, a deaf person wants to read a website content, right? And he just clicks something on the browser, chooses the sign language of his preference, and it's there in sign language for them to access. I think these are my two questions. And how do you see that shaping up?
Yeah, perfect. So, Amanpreet, would you like to take the first question, and then I would take the second question accordingly, if that's fine with you?
Yeah, definitely. So, Chaitanya, about the global, like having a global product that just similar to a Google Translate, how Google Translate has all the languages, is what like everybody envisions to have. But the main challenge over here comes because of the differences in the sign language semantics that are used region by region and country by country. In India itself, like when we were when we were researching about this and understanding about the Indian sign language structure and how is it different from the English language, how is it different from a written text, and how the signs are done, we got to know that region by region, the sign language also changes. Though there is an Indian Sign Language, an official standardized Indian Sign Language that we have for India, but still, when we go from one state to another, or within a state itself, when we go from one region to another, the sign language, there are slight variations in that. So keeping Indian Sign Language at the focus for now, and when we move on to other countries, maybe like there might be changes, there might be slight variations in the sign languages, but I guess that can be solved if like we are using AI, and once the data gets trained for Indian Sign Language, I guess that might not be a big challenge to tackle with, or to like come up with a new sign language, or to like take up a sign language of another country. So like what we are focusing on at Sign Assistive itself is that we are focusing more on the structure or the framework of it. Like if we put in any data that is there, be it of Indian Sign Language, or be it of American Sign Language, or be it of British Sign Language, the framework must be such that the model gets trained, and we can add on other languages as well. So like it all boils down to the structure and the algorithms that are being developed, and maybe in the future or so, like this will get solved, and we might be able to see a Google Translate for sign languages. that has all the sign languages into it.
Yes.
Fantastic.
All
Fantastic.
right. Yeah, and to answer your second question, there's something known as Web Content Accessibility Guidelines, and under that 2.2 framework itself, it suggests that the Indian Sign Language, if a particular website is accommodated with Indian Sign Language, which is a pre-recorded version of that, can make the website deaf accessible. So we had an attempt and we gave it a try. So I would love to, rather than answering your question, I would love to show you that particular how we are answering your question. So I'll share a quick screen with you, and then we could. So could you please enable the screen sharing for me? I'm not able to share that.
Oh, hang on. I thought I already made you the co-host.
Oh, I had left now. So.
Okay. Oh, okay.
Yeah, perfect. Thanks.
You have it?
Yes. So see this. It's China Sifteo's website. All you need to do is you need to come this particular and the moment when you click on any particular text, there's an actual human, a deaf person is there, whose name is Zaid, who's our team member, is coming and signing the content of the particular website, making it completely deaf accessible. And this is for Indian Sign Language. In general, we have an option to select ASL, BSL, which we are working right now, but is currently available in Indian Sign Language. So yeah, with the help of single package, code snippet, we are able to make any website and even the content on the website accessible for the deaf itself. So you get
This is fantastic. But
yeah.
this is recorded, right?
Yes. So it is pre-recorded, but having 3D character to do that particular thing and translate the content on the web, again, is a fair part of having expressions, which is basically which should be in sync with the signs, So it's gonna take a little more time, but it's surely possible until and unless we have sufficient data through which we can train the model and then eventually importing that within a package. So yeah, we are about 50% here, but the future, I believe, is too close as compared to what it was like pre-COVID.
Fantastic. So this is all great. And I'm grateful and really excited that technology has a combination of experts from community, interpreters, and techies like you able to kick it fairly soon. I see a few hands raised up in the community. There's a Dr. Lucas who has raised his hand. And I'm opening up the floor for any other thoughts and questions from the participants. Dr. Lucas. There's also a person called Senso who has raised the hand.
My colleague's name, Dr. Guy McElroy. And watching the sign language when I see the video recorded, I can see I'll rely on interpreter. But to see a face and expressions there, I think it's important for the AI to pick up that on recording and to build it into the algorithm that you spend. We get allow the learning to happen and see what are the standard things come up over and over again, whether it's in South African Sign Language or Indian Sign Language. Then it's building a database into whichever language it's using. So I think that's very important and helpful for me.
So there was a little glitch, I believe, in hearing. If you could please help me summarize that, sir.
Dr. Lucas, could you repeat the question or your thought, please? We lost you for a bit.
Okay, I think. Okay, briefly.
Yeah, you can
Yes.
type in as well if that's
What
possible,
I'm
sir.
talking about is how blind person is a good way.
All right, Dr. Lucas, your internet seems to be
AI to build it. What hasn't come up over and over again, which is our living, including sign language, whether it's South African sign language.
So if that's possible, could you please type in your question?
Can I break up?
Yeah.
Okay.
Meanwhile, while Dr. Lucas puts
Okay,
this
I can
question
type
in the
it out.
chat, Senso, could you please speak up what your opinion or question is?
Thank you, programs director, for the opportunity. I don't know if I'm clear to everyone, because it seems like everyone is struggling with connectivity. My name is Zukoman Lagazi. I'm based here in South Africa. I'm a founder of Senso. Senso is an early stage startup. We develop non-intrusive sound assistive technologies for the deaf community. The product that we are trying to get to the market now, we've developed it, we've co-developed it with deaf communities in 8 different countries. And we filed patents in over 33 countries. It has passed statutory approvals here in South Africa, and we've just been in a process of running trials, product trials, and the feedback has really been incredible. It's really been beautiful witnessing the deaf communities, supporting the solution of the offering. I wanted just to share my thoughts. There was a question that was raised earlier on regarding to how AI adds value to inclusivity or the sign language, and the issue with that, I'm so sorry. Let me just say this first, that I'm not on a video because of the bandwidth where I am. The bandwidth is quite weak. So I'm concerned that if I show a video, I would then be disconnected and lose the meeting. I'm really sorry for that.
No problem. Please continue.
So yeah, the thought I just wanted, or my contribution regarding to how AI would add value to the sign language or to the to inclusivity, it's a number of issues. Otherwise, there is incredible power, beautiful potential when it comes to artificial intelligence. But we are going to take a while before we recognize or realize that, because more often AI, it has to be hosted by devices, and it has to be in a device, for us to abstract value from AI. It has to be in a cell phone, on a laptop, or any specific device that has been manufactured. Now, one of the challenges with START is actually, it's really 2 things, it's the investment flow to assistive technologies, where we have investors that don't want to understand the importance of inclusivity, the importance of ensuring that we do, as innovators, develop these solutions that are assisting in dismantling the divide that happens between the hearing world and the deaf communities, So we have a very small inflow of investment into that space. And the other one was raised here. That was government policy. I've seen this in a number of countries where government willingness or government policies that enables to open up spaces when it comes to assistive technologies, where we get assistive to technology in schools for the deaf, for example, in South Africa, where our governments are slacking behind. They are not doing enough, you know, in getting our schools to be equipped with sound assistive technologies. One of the great examples would be in South Africa. We have 45 schools that are designed to accommodate deaf communities. Public schools, 90% of them are not equipped with these sound assistive technologies, you know, in order to enable those environments for deaf pupils to be inclusive, to be safe, and all of those kind of things, you know. So just a summary now of this, my contribution is we will not be able to get even 20% benefit of AI, simply because AI has to be hosted in devices, and we are not doing great to invest in devices or in technologies, hardware technologies. And also government I'm lagging behind in driving you know, policy where we get our schools to be equipped with assistive technologies. So I wanted just to share that thought. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you very much. We just have 10 more minutes to go, so I will get back to the speakers, Sagar, Aman, and Prabodh. And you've heard both sides of the conversation, right? There are people who are saying this is a good start, and there are some who are saying, you know, there's still way to go. There is opinion that governments have to take this seriously, investments need to come in, and somebody needs to actually walk the path. And as technology folks, you also admit that there is a lot of data that needs to be collected. So my question to Sagar, Aman, and Prabodh, right? We'll first start with Sagar, is your closing comments. Where is there, do you see the glass half full or is it half empty? Are we positive about the future, or is it a pessimistic outlook? Sagar, your thoughts.
Right. So, yes, like what Amanpreet and Prabodh have done, your work towards this technology is really commendable. And AI can become a huge boom in this area. But to your question, Chaitanya, as to what view do I hold, is it a positive or a negative one? It's definitely not a negative one. I do think that, you know, we need to have more deaf people involved, because it's not enough if just the hearing are working on this AI to support the deaf. There has to be a technical person who is hearing, definitely, but have deaf people who can right there give you feedback and work with you so that it is done the way you intend to. And also, before you launch it or go ahead with it, get feedback, you know, do a soft launch, find out from people how it is working. Because what happens is if you just launch it and if there is some bugs or errors in it, which just goes out, people are just learning it, especially the children. So we don't want that to happen. So have the experts from ISL, the deaf people, get their involvement, their take on this, and then launch this. You know that, you know, the saying goes, and the tagline goes, nothing without us, nothing about us without us, right? So have us on your team.
Fantastic. Aman, Prabodh?
Yes. So definitely we are looking towards a brighter future, and we are looking towards more involvement of deaf people, helping us in delivering the data-driven value that will be eventually added into the deaf community as well. So we are looking forward for a brighter and a shinier future for the deaf community, where together we can ensure a better, accessible, and inclusive future for the deaf people.
Yeah, and thank you, Saga, for the inputs. And we'll definitely like do a soft launch first, get the feedback, and then we will push it to a broader market. So thank you very much for the feedback. Regarding my closing comments that I want to share is like definitely it's a work in progress. There is still a long way to go, and to all the points that were discussed today, that there are different sign languages and how can we have a global product. So that's definitely a vision that each one of us over here also has. Each one of us who is might be working with the deaf, or who is empowering the deaf, who is deaf himself, they all have a vision to like have a global product that has all the sign language into it. uh, One of the comments that Dr. Lucas had put up in the comments was to have human uh, instead of an animated character that connects well for the translation itself. So the AI, we like to add over here that AI has that potential also, and that has begun now. That instead of the avatar, instead of the animated character, we can have humans as well. Like you must have heard of the deep fake. That like actually a human, you will see that there is a human, but you can like tell him to speak up anything or to act anything, or like he can, instead of an animated character, that there will be a human and it will be all AI. So that's a possibility where instead of the animated character, we can have a human character itself, and that will provide a realistic sign language, be it in terms of facial expressions, the tone of the language, the body language, everything. So that is also, we'll say, the work in progress. The glass is still half full for that. And yeah, regarding what uh, the last comment, the last feedback was shared by Senso. So over there, like, so over here, the model is that the government, the corporates, and the community and the not-for-profits have to work together in this, because we'll have to use the scale of the government, we'll have to use the finances of the corporates that they have, and we'll have to use the impact of the community and the not-for-profits. So like the intersection of all these will create the magic that we all want to see over here. So yeah, so that's all from my end, and definitely looking forward to a brighter future in this community.
One thing I would love to add is communication is always a complete circle, and we need to involve general people as well to make things and the workplaces and every single digital and physical infrastructure accessible for the deaf. And this is how the way it is going to work is you need to create something which through which the normal people, the normal population should be able to communicate with the deaf either. So it's always a two-way process when it comes to communication, and we need to enable that as well. And yeah, that is a surreal possibility when it comes to having AI doing the communication feature and acting as an intermediary between that. So yeah, thank you so much for that amazing
Fantastic.
feedbacks.
Fantastic. Before I close the session, Rakesh, your closing comments.
Yeah, thanks, Chaitanya. Wonderful speakers, much appreciated. I got only three things to possibly, we can take them as the takeaway at the end of it, or maybe,
Rakesh, may I
some
ask you, may I request you to switch on your video, please?
my video is switched off now. Oh, you want me
Could
to
you
switch
switch it
on the
on?
video? You want me to switch on the
Yes.
video? Okay, sorry.
Yes.
I thought you were asking me to switch off the video, so thank you. Three things. I think one of the important element what I could sense, there's very little database which is available. So even if a chat GPT has to work, it'll have to fetch some data from somewhere. So first and foremost challenge, I think for all techies and for all people who are trying to create some solution to the deaf community would be, how do we create or how do we make relevant database available and how do we access the database? So that's number one. Number two, how do we create content which is device agnostic? and it is interoperable, right? It doesn't matter what technology you use, but is it agnostic? And how easy is able to integrate the other platforms which are available? And the last one, I do understand we have to ask the state to come and sponsor, we have to ask corporate to come and sponsor. But when you go and ask money, it's going to take long time till your hair will go gray, as mine have gone. Okay. So what do we do in the meantime? In the meantime, two things which I think are possibilities. One, the TV is one of the strong mediums in whichever part of the world you go, right? Can we create learning tools, learning videos, depending on the standard, the grade, the country, and so on and so forth, and try and create a kind of model to work with the media players who are into that space. So that's something what we can do, because I think no one has content, for example, teaching physical sciences, right, with an avatar, being broadcasted by, for example, DD in India, SABC in South Africa. And lastly, mobile phones have penetrated all across the continent, all across the globe, right? Can we create an app, a personalized app, which then if I ask a person, as a deaf person, if I ask information, or if I want to seek information, the app enables me to find that information, or enables me to fetch that information. So I think if we are able to work on these 3-4 things, besides using a backend technology, I think we'll make some headwinds. Thank you.
Fantastic, Rakesh. I think that I have topics for the next set of webinars. One is nudge on deep fake is a topic by itself. And Rakesh, when you mentioned the various possible ways to get content out to the community, that's a separate discussion. That's very interesting as well. So thanks for bringing that up. And I would like to close this session today. I would thank Andy and Jombi from South Africa for Atya and Nia for Indian language. As my comments, I think the glass is always half full. Possibilities of doing something bigger and something better, the culmination of multiple parts together. And I really like what Sarah said, nothing about them without them. So let's make this grand success, make this happen. Nice evening.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having us.